O God, be the canoe that holds me in the sea of life. Be the steer that keeps me straight. Be the outrigger that supports me in times of great temptation. Let thy spirit and thy light be my sail that carries me through each day. Keep my body strong so that I can paddle steadfastly on in the long voyage of life. It was particularly appropriate for me yesterday because it was the Yorkshire Unitarian Union summer gathering and we were at Scarborough. We walked down to the beach and there were people canoeing, or rowing, I think, rowing on the ocean across the bay. And it just made me think a bit of this prayer that I'd already chosen for the service. So, yes, quite not one I've used anywhere else before, but I rather like that. I use the American Unitarian Universalist meditation anthologies a lot, and I've used certainly here Evening Tide or readings from Evening Tide by Elizabeth Tarbox many times. She's unfortunately deceased now, but this is a lovely reading and I can certainly relate to it whenever I go back to my favourite water places. So this is called Homecoming by Elizabeth Tarbox. I returned at sunrise to my special beach at Shipyard Lane, where morning is a soft line on the horizon and the trees have been touched by the fastidious brush of spring. And I walked slowly to the edge of the sweet ocean that moves and calls me. And I dipped my fingers in her hair and tasted the salt and knew I was home. I want to bring you the warm smell of spring there, recreate for you the twist of a certain old wild apple tree with branches frosted with blossom, or hum the song of the chorale that sounds from every branch. I want you to place your bare feet down on that cool sand and draw your breath deep into your own secret inner world, where your truth and only your truth is spoken. I want to press your hands lightly to the smooth grey rocks and show you the chipmunks that make their home between the rocks and the beach plum bushes. But if that cannot be, if you and I are too far apart or don't even know each other's names, then know at least that Shipyard Lane gives me more love than I can use, plenty enough to share, and I would share it with you. Just a thought about for any of us when we go home to our special water places. So that's the first of the short readings I've chosen. And this one is more of a poem. I'm doing well with my name. I've got three readings written by an Elizabeth, which is my main name, and one written by a Mary, and my proper name is Mary Elizabeth, so good names. This one's Water Journey, and I can imagine this. I've done one canoe journey down a river that varied from the descriptions in this poem, so I can understand what you're doing. And of course, you don't do river journeys, but certainly the ocean. Water journey. Floating along on this river, we have passed the rapids and come to a wonderful pond, nice and round and still, with tree-lined banks and birdsong. Time to breathe easy and smile, sigh at the ease of it all, recalling the strength and skill demanded by white water up above. Now, doing nothing, their sadness at the passing of adventure, anxiety too, that just over there, the outlet of the pool leads on to the unknown. There's no need to hurry about leaving the pool. When it comes time for that, we'll go. Two rather nice readings, I think. I don't know whether any of you ever met June Bell. I did. It's either the GA or Hucklow, I can't remember which, but I found an absolutely amazing woman who would sit down with an idea in her head and write a poem or a hymn like that. And I would sit down and think, I don't know what to put. I can't do this. This is not me. But she could and did. And she just had a superb personality to go with it. So thank you, June, for your hymns. We now have a time of prayer and reflection. I'm doing it a bit differently this time. I decided you've heard enough of me already and you're hearing more later on. So I've found the hymns. I've not written any of them. They're written by different authors, but I've asked, well, David has organised it for me. He's asked 3 more members of the congregation and himself are going to read the prayers between you. So can you just come up here so you're not moving from your seats once you start? And I'll sit myself down and enjoy listening.
Words of Welcome by Wendell Berry. Glory be to the earth and to the wind. Glory be to the sun and to the rain. Glory be to families and children, to women and to men. Glory be to thee, whose gifts of light and life call us together as one.
The Language of the Earth by Cliff Reed. Listen to the language of the earth, the wind in the trees, the rain on the window, the gurgling stream, the roaring waterfall, the lapping of the waves, rocks cracking in the frost, the grinding of the glacier, buds popping in the spring, singing bird, buzzing insect, people laughing, people weeping, people talking. This is the language of the earth. Listen and be wise.
An Algerian prayer. I have seen the waters flow in the river. I have seen the flowers along the banks of the river. Passing by, I have gazed upon the countryside and inhaled the perfume of the orange blossoms. I have been grateful to God, and I have said thank you.
A Day by Vincent Silliman. A day, yes, another day. This day is ours. Its beauty, its promise, its weight of sorrow and disappointment, the brightness of its opportunity for doing and achieving, of its opportunity for the deepening of love and understanding. This day is ours, even as we make it ours by the readiness and warmth of our appreciations, for from it we shall receive according to the measure of our giving. Let our giving be of ourselves and from the heart. May there be laughter in this day, and if there be tears, then generous tears. Another day, ah yes, a day.
Thank you, all of you. So there we had water as the rain. We had water as rain again, but also as the gurgling stream, the roaring waterfall, lapping waves. We had waters flowing in the river. And in the final one, we had water as tears. All those are important for life. 2 more readings now. First one is, well, they're both by the same lady. They're by a lady called Elizabeth Lerner, again an American Unitarian Universalist. And they're both about lakes. The first one is Night Lake, and the second one is Winter Lake. So, the night is cool and clear. I smell pine, brine, and flowers in a blend unique to this hardy, bent arm of land on the Massachusetts coast. Stepping into the familiar scent brings a joyful lift. We three walk in the dark along the middle of the quiet road and down the wooded track to the lake. Between the boys' jokes about lurking nocturnal creatures, the menace of poison ivy, we put our hands on the planed edge of our homemade skiff and pull it from the underbrush. We put out, me in front, the boy in the middle, the man in back. The black water is so still it mirrors the sky. The clear silhouette of the trees, the moon, even lights from a low-flying plane. The moon is full and the night is clear with muted brilliance. Ripples bloom from our prow and paddles, then fade back into stillness, the immutable quiescence of the dark lake. The boat sits low with all of us in it and rocks. We are loud and silly, louder perhaps because of the calm all around us. Slowly we quiet down, even the birds stay silent, and the dipping of paddles is the only sound we hear as we slide through the water. I know this lake. I swim around it every day, often alone, but for the sweet dark arrow of my dog's face as he paces me. I know where the hawk roosts in the tall dead tree, and I know where the blue crane used to fish. I know how very high the water is this year, so high that part of the island is drowned and gone. We are floating over land I have walked on, and when I put my long paddle down as far as it will go, I still cannot touch that earth I trod. I know where the sunfish nests are and the tall straight reeds below the water, and where the water lilies grow up towards the surface of the filtered light. I know where the big branch is that frightens with its sudden appearance when you swim deep underwater, and where the island's beach used to be, also submerged. I know all the jeweled colours of the dragonflies, red, midnight blue, light blue, amber with double wings, glittering brown with translucent striped wings, with whom I share the lake. And I know how to coax them to my hand. The lake is benign as ever, even half seen and impenetrable in the night, but it is less familiar, full of new mysteries. If I were alone, I would slide into the water and begin to learn the night lake better. My dog would help. He suffers less from imagination when braving the new. But with my companions, the lake remains a mystery tonight. We return to the shore and the boat to its bracing brush, and we tramp back to the house. Part of the night lake has happened for us all, and I am glad for the darkness and light and stillness and water we have shared. Without company, I would have wished someone else could experience the lake at night for themselves. But part of it happened, I think, only for me. Amid jokes and companionship, an invitation was slipped into my hand as it trailed in the water, and I know I will return alone for what I missed. Beautifully written, that. And that's why I had to read both of her lake stories, lake reflections. This one's Winter Lake. Have you entered the storehouses of the snow? Or have you seen the treasuries of the hail? From whose womb did the ice come forth? And who has given birth to the hoarfrost of heaven? The waters become hard like stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. And I did mean to look at that in my Bible, but I didn't have time. That's Job 38. Maybe I will look at it at home afterwards. So, Job 38. One crisp, frozen winter night, as snowfall drifted to its conclusion, I walked with friends down from my old cottage in New York State to a nearby lake. As the last flakes wafted down, they fell from a sky of clear and darkest black. The stars shone in unparalleled numbers and allure. The lake was frozen solid and covered in fresh snow, a cleared expanse of white without even a branch to mar it. We admired it, and then, of course, couldn't resist marring it ourselves. We walked on water. We didn't come to skate or laugh or cry out or for any experience I had ever had on ice before. We came in silence, walked out onto the lake and watched the wide night sky above, framed at the edges by the intricate patterns of snow-covered branches. We bent down and brushed the snow from the surface of the lake. We saw the gleam of the ice and the blackness of the sky reflected in the blackness of the frozen lake with the white snow all around. The air was cold and still. The midnight, midwinter woods kept silence. The landscape was without colour or sound, yet it wasn't bleak. It was filled with magic and mystery, with intense, unprecedented beauty. It was not the lake I knew, that I mundanely jogged around and fished in and hiked near with my dog and cats. This was not even the nighttime woods I knew, full of insects and birds and snakes and sound, and the rich smells of earth and fresh water and decaying leaves. This was the Garden of Night in the land of the Snow Queen, a place of clarity and cold and black and white, sky and land and water and peace, such as I had never beheld before. It was not hostile. It was not a hostile climate, though there was no life evident in it, and not empty, though it was stark in its elements. It was as though the universe came down and touched our planet there, and the two merged, simple and eternal, though all would be changed there in minutes and ours by the life that was in fact everywhere, concealed, protected, waiting. Life is laden with opportunities for miracle or beauty, moments of choice that bless us if we seize them, even in a cold season. I have entered the storehouses of the snow, seen the treasuries of hail, seen ice birthed on the earth, lifted my face to the hoarfrost of heaven, walked on water hard as stone, and looked into the frozen deep, and it was good. By Elizabeth Lerner. I'm going to start this talk, address, whatever you want to call it, with some basic chemistry, which most of you will or should remember from secondary school. I must admit, the only subjects I remember from my secondary school, and this is very common apparently, is how river meanders are formed. I think everybody, and yeah, you all remember how river meanders are formed, it's obvious. That's what I remember from school. I also remember a physics lesson, something about light rays changing. And I remember dissecting the frog, and I remember seeing the rat dissections and so on. But it was enough to persuade me to go in to become a science teacher. So I taught biology and lower school science. So here we have some simple chemistry. Water is a simple compound composed of just two elements, which are oxygen and hydrogen. It's an explosive reaction to make hydrogen and oxygen combine. But some of you may remember seeing your science teacher demonstrate this experiment, where your teacher would pass an electric current through water and collect the two gases given off. Now, I can't remember the name of the equipment. I know it had two long glass tubes like that with it must have been joined together a bit higher up, because there were two electrodes connected inside the water, and the current passed through the water at both electrodes. And one of those, one produced oxygen, gave bubbles of oxygen gas, and one gave bubbles of hydrogen gas, which went up into where there was two little taps, and there would be a test tube above. So we collected the gas first of all, and we had to keep it going for a bit because you needed enough of the particular gas to put it into a test tube to then test it again. So I remember doing that once or twice. So I was a biology teacher rather than a chemistry teacher, but I do remember teaching, sort of showing that. And another simple experiment was where we had a glass, again its name, but a glass sort of ball of water with a tube obviously to fill in, cold, very cold water, and that was dry on the outside. And you put either a candle or Bunsen burner, a small jet of flame underneath the cold water, and you'd see it steam up on the outside. And that told us that burning fuel produces water. So those are two experiments. One, the electrolysis of water to show that it contains the gas, hydrogen and oxygen, and one to show that burning a fuel will produce water. So that's two little experiments I remember from my time many years ago, it seems. I've been retired 10 years, well, 11 years now. So, and my memory tends to go as one gets older, and it does. So, I do remember, even as a science teacher, but certainly as a pupil at school, the wonder that I felt when I first learned that burning fuel or burning anything produces water, yet you use water to put out fire. So, first, some important facts about water. Water is colourless. Put a glass of it here. It's tasteless. Yes, it fills the space that it's put in. So it doesn't have its own form as water. If water does have a taste, it's because of chemicals that are dissolved in it. If you swim in the ocean or swimming baths, you will recognize the taste of dissolved salts and dissolved chlorine. Water is the best chemical solvent there is. It dissolves more solids than any other liquid. Pure water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius and boils at 100 degrees Celsius. That is at, I think it was 4 degrees Celsius that I know when I did it at school, it never froze at 0 degrees Celsius, and it never seemed to boil at 100. We didn't have very good thermometers, was the reason. And you'd look at the thermometer and think, there's a bubble of mercury or alcohol up there. That shouldn't be up there. Meant to be joined in a long continuum. They weren't very good. And kids tended to, well, mess with them, let's be honest. Most liquids become denser, that's heavier, more solid, more compacted together as they freeze. So they freeze from the bottom up. Water doesn't do that. Luckily, as I said, water doesn't do that. When it cools down past 4 degrees Celsius, the molecules move further apart. It becomes less dense and it therefore floats on the water. And that's really important, because if water didn't do that, if water got more and more compact as it froze, it would freeze from the bottom of the lake upwards. And life wouldn't have evolved in the way it has. So, very, very important water fact. I will always remember seeing a very live toad underneath the ice in a big water trough. The trough was maybe from here to where the window is, so that wide front to back. And it was for the cattle on one of the moors, sorry. The water trough was there because where I walked my dog, where I used to live, it was one of the York strays, and York strays have cattle on them during the season for cattle grazing outside. But how the toad got into that, I have no idea, because the water surface was, well, it was metal, the trough, not stone, and the water was usually about that far beneath the edge of the trough. So whether somebody put it in, it looked perfectly at home. It was underneath maybe that much ice, maybe more. It was quite a few years ago when we had colder winters. I can't see it happening now because we've not had a really cold winter in York for ages. But it was there, it was visible, it was moving, it was definitely alive. So as I said, water freezes from the surface down, the ice was above it, protecting the toad and all the other life that was in that trough of water from damage. Scientists believe that life first evolved in water, or some scientists do anyhow, perhaps at the edge of an ocean or lake, or perhaps under the ocean near jets where gases from magma trapped under the ocean floor bubble to the surface, or even in rain droplets and puddles. There's certainly water involved somewhere. When I was teaching, there's a lot more talk about how life evolved. I looked on my mobile, I looked on the computer, and couldn't really see much new research, so I don't know. The first verse of a poem called Water is from this booklet. Now, this is the oldest booklet I've used for preparing this service, and it's called Mosaic. It's an anthology compiled by members and friends of the Bradford and Kirkdale group of Unitarian and Free Christian churches in June 1993. So, and this particular poem, I'm going to drop backwards and forwards into this poem. It doesn't give who it was by, it just says anonymous. So, and I actually tried to type in some of the first verse, but it wasn't recognised. So I'm presuming it was actually written by somebody within the group, but I don't know who. So, elemental, formless, without colour, taste or dimension, life-giving, without which there is no life, and by which all life is sustained, eternal cleanser, comforter, healer, preserver. So those facts that I gave in a more scientific form, the author of this poem has just described beautifully. The next verse introduces us to the many places where water calms us or excites us or causes us to feel wonder or just simple joy. Water, delighting our senses, exciting our wonder, mighty in Niagara, tender in the dews of morning, mysterious in a mountain tarn, joyful in a fountain spray, nourishing a whole world of life and beauty in ocean's depths. And how many kids, or even much older adults, will splash in a pond? I know the one outside the art gallery at York does sometimes excite, particularly the end of term, excite students to get into it and run up and down. There used to be, I liked it, it was the middle of main sort of from Parliament Street in York. They put in a very, very nice fountain. It's about that high where the water was, with a central part that was raised up, and it was hexagonal, and you could walk around. A great place to meet. If Kathy met any of her friends, it was a drop me off so-and-so, I'll meet them at the fountain. And that was what we all said. And the thing is, other people, well, no, I didn't mind. They used to like putting soap liquid in it. Sometimes they put in coloured dye, food colouring, and I didn't mind. But the stall holders didn't like it when the bubbles got blown by the wind. And the coloured dye, well, what colour is it? Is it going to catch splash on my clothing and things like that? The fountain was first of all boarded up. Oh, it was left dry for a bit, then it was boarded up with information about York on the outside, so you could be educated as you waited for people. Now it's gone completely. And no, it's been gone for quite a few years now, but I liked it, and it was nice to have a fountain there in the sort of the centre of town. So now all of you live in Newcastle, which has a very big river going through the centre. You're also pretty close to the ocean, I reckon. I tried to look on the map at what your coast is like, whether it's like your Yorkshire coast where I live or not. So I couldn't tell. So this is general. Living as you all do, close to the east coast of Northumberland, I expect that many of you will have a stretch of coastland that is one of your special places. Perhaps you find joy in the wind-driven waves crashing against the rocks, or do you remember looking for crabs or small fish in the mid-tide pools? Yes, and good. My favourite water place is the River Wharfe in Grassington. Now, some of you know it, yes. Oh, of course you will do, yes.
Yes, I do as well.
Sorry?
I do as well.
You do as well. Yes. Yeah. My grandparents had a shop in Grassington, an ironmonger's shop, and they moved there when I was 1 year old and left when I was 10. So they were there for 9 years, and we weren't very wealthy then. We didn't really go away on holiday, but we'd go and stay at my grandparents regularly, and that was our holiday place. So we weren't allowed to walk down on our own because you had to cross the road at the bottom. So a parent or grandparent always went with us, but we were close enough where my grandfather's shop was to walk down to the river and then walk along the riverbank, paddle. Quite a big part of learning to swim and learning sort of confidence in water was there, because there were a few places where you could stand in the water up to about, well, no, I was that size at the time, but I've got certainly seen photographs of me in the water. I had the most awful swimming costume. It was knitted wool.
Oh, yeah.
Now, knitted wool, of course, stretches when it gets wet. And it used to end up with the top of the swimming pool somewhere down here. Because I was under 10, so I mean, I wasn't displaying anything that you could worry about, but I still didn't like the straps came, well, it was horrid, but it was inherited from somebody. So Grassington is special. It's my special place. I mean, I have other special places, but that's the special place. And even I have this. This comes back later in the service. Where is it? There we have it. My grandfather was a bit of an artist. I think if the First World War hadn't have happened, I have the feeling that he was at art college for a time, but that's a painting that he did. So, so I was just saying, it's not quite, it's only a small picture, but it was Love to Elizabeth from Grandad Machen, May 1959, when I was, well, 9 years old at the time. So quite special. As I've said, it's my special place. So much so that both my children know that I want at least some of my ashes to go into the River Wharfe at Grassington. Now, when I first said that to the kids, I said, then my ashes will wander around down the river, eventually join up with the Ouse, go past where I live now, well, the city, and out to the Humber and the North Sea. The River Wharfe does not join the Ouse, but it does join the Humber, and so my ashes will eventually reach the North Sea. And maybe someone gets stuck on the bank, but that's whether you're allowed to put your ashes, people's ashes in rivers, I don't know. But if nobody knows about it, and there's just maybe a small amount of the ashes go in the river, that will be fine by me. Any of you who are gardeners will know of the soothing effects of having even a small pond in your garden. Yeah. Last year, I enjoyed watching newts dancing together before mating, and then the female laying her eggs singly and wrapping them in leaves of the pondweed. That was amazing. I was even able to separate some weed out that I thought a female had laid eggs in. She had. I put it into an old washing up bowl, and I sort of looked at it every day, or more than once every day, and actually saw tiny, minute newt tadpoles, completely different to frog tadpoles. They're much smaller for longer. They keep the external gills for longer as well, and they have legs when they first hatch. So very different, but mainly just the smallness and the slowness of developing. This year, I've not done as much gardening. I've too much floating duckweed in my pond. I started removing it too late. That, well, there might be newt tab eggs stuck to that. I can't take it out now. I'm going to have to leave it until later in the year. So I haven't seen any tadpoles this year. I have seen newts in the pond. I've seen frogs in the pond, but no tadpoles. And I've seen all less detail. But still, it's nice to have a pond. Did you know that water makes up 60% of our total body weight? You've heard figures like that, yes. And 90% of our brain weight. So adequate hydration is essential for our body to function at all. So water is essential for healthy life and good body functioning. As water is the main constituent of blood, it delivers important nutrients to our cells. Water detoxifies by moving toxins from cells to the kidneys and helps the kidney function at an optimum rate. Low water intake causes poor kidney function. Water helps weight loss. I should drink a lot more water, and I might lose more weight. Won't go there. If you drink water with your meals, You will fill up faster and stay full for longer without adding any calories. Water aids digestion and reduces constipation, and especially helps those with irritable bowel syndrome. Ladies and gentlemen, water hydrates skin much better than expensive creams. So it reduces the effect of aging. So if you've loads of water, wash your face well, drink water well, and forget all about the creams. My computer said that the recommended daily consumption is 8 glasses a day, and that's the computer word speaking. It didn't say whether these are pint, half pint, or wine glass size. And drinking too much water, say 4 or 5 litres of water at a time, can be dangerous. There are people who, I've got to drink 8 glasses. Pint glass here, normally fill it with beer. Maybe I better fill it with water instead. And they've done that and they've died. So yeah, it can. So water is calming, fun, exciting, restful, healthy. Water's also good for our spirit and for important stages of life. The poem Water that I read verses of earlier finishes with these final 2 verses. Water, refreshing the feet of the pilgrim, cleansing the eyes of the penitent, seal of the Spirit, twice blessed and blessing, in baptism's quiet hour, consoling, releasing for the grieving one. Water, our one remaining innocence, suffusing the eyes of the beloved one, and which of us can resist a baby's tears? Water, freely bestowed and eternal, wonderful water. And finally, written in this first autograph book that I showed you earlier by my grandmother, that's my artist grandfather's wife, that grandmother, when I was 10 years old. There are 2 things all may steal and no one misses: the water in the wayside well and kisses. Thank you. We had our York Pride March a few weeks ago. A few of us walked, and we also had a stall at the end of the march. So yeah, quite well attended. So I hope yours is also. God of summer, whose gifts are sunshine to brighten our lives and storms to keep them green, we turn to you in gratitude for this season. Help us to relax and make the most of its warmth and beauty, to store away the memories of summer that help sustain us through winters yet to come. We are grateful for times and places to enjoy ourselves, parks and gardens, beaches and swimming pools, mountains and woodlands, whether we seek peace and solitude or good company and noisier pursuits. Help us to let go of our frantic busyness and find peace in the summertime. Amen. Thank you.